Welcome to The Road. This is a weekly podcast of All Saints Lutheran Church. I'm your host, John Pedersen, and I serve as pastor. Each week, we reflect on faith, life, and navigating the road ahead. The language of journey is common when we think about life. It has its joys and challenges along the way, and we all need a little encouragement and guidance at times to keep us going. There's a word in the Bible, asphalia, which means truth, but it's the same root word we use in English for asphalt, if you can believe that. It's a solid surface that makes travel easier and more assured. And so every week we're going to be exploring elements of faith and life that keep us on the road. Faith isn't about living a perfect life. It's about finding our way, getting through rough spots, but seeking out those great vistas too. You can find my weekly message here, but you'll also find special conversations with guests who have insights on things like wellness, parenting, and living with unique purpose. If you appreciate this podcast, remember to subscribe where possible and share it with a friend. Here's this week's message.
Big Brother is watching you. George Orwell's 1984. Orwell's dystopian novel is one of the more famous in this genre, but there are many others with equally thought-provoking and fear-inducing words. We lived as usual by ignoring. Ignoring isn't the same as ignorance. You have to work at it. Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. One believes things because one is conditioned to believe them. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. You forget what you want to remember and remember what you want to forget. Cormac McCarthy's The Road. You don't forget the face of the person who was your last hope. Suzanne Collins's The Hunger Games. Or perhaps the most famous of all, So It Will Be at the End of the Age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The Gospel of Matthew. These quotes are frightening, challenging, and uncomfortable. And they make up a part of the genre known as apocalyptic, dystopian, or, if we want to be really fancy, eschatological, the end times. But since the beginning of time, human beings have been fascinated with the end of the world. Countless predictions have been made about when this world will end, and even early Christians lived with a true faith and belief and understanding that Jesus would return within their lifetime. Many people enjoy the anticipation and even adrenaline that accompanies this exploration of apocalyptic stories. And it seems today that the author of the Gospel of Matthew is no different. Not only do they use literary devices, such as metaphors, to share beautiful and comforting messages about the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field, and it is the smallest of seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree. Shelter for those in need. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of flour until it was leavened. Food for the hungry. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. A means of making a living. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought that one pearl. A precious item whose value is greater than anything a person can own. But this author also uses end times imagery to share about the kingdom of heaven. Because the kingdom of heaven is like a net that is thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. And when it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets and threw out the bad. A tool or weapon used to decide who is in and who is out. This is a great text to manipulate others. In fact, it has been used as a weapon against many thousands of people. If you are not found to be part of the good, the righteous, then you are bad, and you will be thrown into the furnace in the end. It's no wonder people don't want anything to do with Christianity. We use our scriptures to bludgeon people into submission, rather than using them as a way to welcome and love our neighbors. Yes, the words spoken by Jesus here are harsh. These words can and do strike fear into the hearts and minds of many people. Just like the works of authors such as George Orwell, Margaret Atwood, Suzanne Collins, cause people to think and react in fear. Each of these authors has written a story that takes place set far in the future, a society that has risen in the face of world-changing events, from theocratic takeovers of government to asteroids changing the face of the planet to nuclear war. People have pressed on and come out the other side, which sounds great at first. But the problem is that these post-apocalyptic cultures still have oppression and manipulation and suffering and even much worse. They're not ideal. They're not utopia, and they terrify their readers. These worlds and the characters within them cause such strong reactions that many people fight to ban these books. Books that cause us to pause and think, to read about the possibility of challenging and frightening futures brought on by the very real hunger of wealth, power, control, and more. Over the years, there have also been many readers who have made comments that these writers predicted the future or our present day with their books. George Orwell predicted government overreach and being watched and hunted through technology. Margaret Atwood predicted the further subjugation of women by those in religious authority. Suzanne Collins predicted the violent sacrifice of children at the hands of those in power. But there is something important to remember when we are discussing the dystopian genre. Dystopian stories are descriptive, not prescriptive. They are commentaries and critiques of a society as it is, not as it will be. They describe what is currently happening, not what will come to pass. They create worlds, futures, that for many feel an awful lot like our present. These authors use the gift of creative writing and imagination to speak difficult truths about their present day. When we hear the words Jesus speaks, words of judgment and suffering, of weeping and gnashing of teeth, it is natural to feel fear. I remember in the summer of 2011, I had just finished my second year of college and was set to start working at summer camp for the first time. I was excited and nervous, but my nerves were not what was occupying my thoughts day and night. Instead, my mind was focused on all the different discussions revolving around the prediction the end of the world would happen in December 2012. Some of you may recall that there was ample excitement and fear surrounding the end of the Mayan calendar. because it just stopped. And as a result, many thought that the ancient civilization had predicted that is when the world would end. Now, either I had heard one too many discussions about this, seen one too many different media portrayals of it, or something was just said in an offhand way that tripped a trigger for my brain to latch onto fear and anxiety that the end of the world causes many people. I wasn't ready for the world to end. I still had so much to do and be. But I live with anxiety. And anxiety isn't always rational. In fact, when I'm really struggling with it, there is little that can help my brain let go of that worry and fear, because it is not rational. My brain winds up in an emotional and survival mode due to my anxiety. That is exactly what happened whenever I thought about December 2012. Now, I was trying to explain these thoughts and share my feelings with my mother. We were out in the backyard gardening, and she paused what she was doing. She said something that I will never forget. If it's truly the end, then you wouldn't be afraid. God doesn't want you to be afraid. God doesn't want you to live in fear. Those 3 sentences helped me not only get through the next year, but have also helped me get through many other periods of anxiety in my life. And while the thoughts and the anxiety never actually goes away, I'm able to come back to these truths about God time and time again. God does not want me to be afraid. God does not want me to live in fear. And it's these truths that help me confront the challenges of today's gospel reading. Because when I remember these things, I'm able to understand that just like the authors of apocalyptic and dystopian novels, the writer of Matthew's gospel was being descriptive, not prescriptive. The stories they wrote, the words they chose to quote from Jesus, were a commentary on the society that they lived in. And it is a commentary for us to view our society today. The kingdom of heaven is not some far-off place or dream. It is here and now. We are a part of it. And yes, there is suffering. There is weeping. There is gnashing of teeth. But Jesus died. Jesus rose again. Jesus overcame the weeping and gnashing of teeth. In the end, they are no more for you or me or for any of God's beloved children. There is shelter for those in need. There is food for those who are hungry. There is opportunity for those who need new ways to live and thrive. There is fortune for those in need of wealth. There is a tool for those searching for a means to understand what to hold on to and what to let go. God doesn't want or need you to live in fear, because nothing can separate us from the love of God. So go live in freedom. Live in joy. Live in the kingdom of heaven that is right here, right now. Amen.
That's this week's message. You don't have to navigate the road ahead alone. You can join with others at All Saints. Visit allsaintsmtka.org for more information. Have a great week.